The real reason that you procrastinate. And me too. Cliff notes, short answer. We can get this video done in less than 5 minutes. The real reason you procrastinate is 1, safety. And there is no 2. That's it. Okay, so now we got to understand what the hell is he talking about? Okay, the way the nervous system works and the way the subconscious operates inside the mind is that it is constantly monitoring our safety in our environment. And it is always creating an emotional experience that is then kind of percolates up into our conscious mind as an emotion. And then that emotion motivates us. We have all these experiments that are reproducible and they all kind of paint the same story. And that is the human mind makes decisions based upon emotional stimulus, not rational or cognitive thought. We've got that part of our brain and it does a lot of amazing things, but it's not where the core stimulus for decision making comes from. So we've got this part of the brain that makes these decisions based upon emotions. And what are the emotions? The emotions are a high-speed detection mechanism inside our brain that is looking at all the data that we see. And then it is making snap judgments about where is safety and where it's not. What does this have to do with procrastination? From this model, it kind of informs us that almost every impulse, decision, or behavior that we have is somehow related to a deep down associations with survival, comfort, and safety. Because comfort, if you're in a state of comfort, it has very high associations with safety. And if we're in a state of safety, it has very, very high associations with survival. And since that's what this is all about, it is like, how do we ensure the survival of this organism? We can see that this impulse that you have to say, I want to do this, binge out on Netflix, eat a pizza, put it off until the next day, versus this other thing, which is do my math homework or fill out the IRS forms or whatever else. When we have to make a decision between these two things and we're not engaging the highest portions of our brain, we're not engaging the most rigid, math structure-y, computational part of our brain, we're just like, I'm sitting here, I don't really want to work at it. And then what happens? An impulse comes up inside me, a compulsion that says, grab the remote control, turn on Netflix, pick up the phone, call for pizza, whatever else your distraction is, right? Go read a book, call some friends, go play a board game, shoot videos, who knows what. Whatever the thing is that you're avoiding, or the activity that you're engaging in order to avoid the thing that you should be doing, that's where we need to look at this. The thing that you should be doing doesn't feel good. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It feels like work. It feels like a lot of energy expenditure. And the payoff is low, if at all. We can get this little bit of a payoff in the sense that, like, I finished my math homework, and you get to like check it off the list, and you get this little kind of jolt of dopamine and serotonin that basically says, hey, we're going to have a little bit of happiness right now because we actually achieved a goal. And when you look at people that are highly productive, very driven, and successful in the Western sense, capitalist sense, you'll see that their reaction, the person that is checking it off and getting lots of pleasurable feedback, that pleasure is definitely positive. That pleasure is definitely comfortable. That pleasure is definitely has high indications of safety. And therefore, it is associated with survival. And then it creates a positive feedback loop where they want to do it more and more and more. sometimes too much. I get those people all the time. They're like, I'm driven all the time. I'm anxious all the time. I feel like I have to keep doing or else I'm going to be a failure and blah, 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 right? And so this is not like, it's not like that's the holy grail of the people that are pleasurable checkers. That's not, they don't automatically win at life. They just win at a certain little domain of life where the procrastinators are on the flip side of this. So this procrastination thing, we say, well, okay, Kirby, what do we do about it? What do we do about it is we have to identify aspects of the things you're avoiding that feel unpleasant, uncomfortable, waste of time, waste of energy, or downright hazardous. We have to identify the aspects of the thing you're avoiding that are actually associated with threat or lack of safety or lack of survival, right? And people say, well, how can doing math homework, like I've got this assignment and I'm supposed to do my math homework, but I don't want to, like I want to go watch Netflix. And it's like, but if I go watch Netflix, then there's going to be all this pain and horror that comes down from mom and dad as they come and punish me. How can that be safer? How can that be more associated with survival? That is a great question. And it's one that I asked myself a lot when I first started learning about this stuff. And eventually you get to a point where you can kind of begin to understand that that part of the brain that is evoking that emotional compulsion lives entirely in the present. It is like right now and a couple of seconds from now. It does not actually have the ability to look far into the future. That's what the other part of the brain is for. That's what this cognitive rational thing is for. But that part of the brain that actually creates the emotions, it cares about right now, what's pleasurable, what's not. And so one of the ways that it evaluates whether or not something is safe or unsafe, threatening, not threatening, whatever, is that it is looking at how much energy needs to be spent on this thing versus the payoff. And it's not the payoff in the future, it's the payoffs in the past. So this thing is looking at right now, math homework, yes or no? And it says, I'm looking at all the times in the past that are associated with math homework. And what I see when I look back in time through all the memory banks, and this is the procedural memory system, not the narrative. You live in the narrative, I live in the narrative, but this part of our brain lives with a procedural memory system, which remembers far, far more, but it remembers in a different way. It's associative connections, not narration. So this part of the brain goes back in time and looks at all prior instances that have anything to do with math homework, or maybe homework in general, or maybe anything having to do with an assignment, or maybe anything having to do with an expectation coming from an adult, right? It's looking at anything that kind of has lines of association or connection or similarity to this moment, this thing that I'm looking at right now. So it looks back in time and says like, well, there's all these other times that we sat down and we did math homework. And what happened? We got told we're wrong. We got shamed for not performing. We tried and we put in effort and there's no payoff. We put in lots of effort maybe, the first couple of times. And then what happens is I didn't know what to do and I got answers wrong. And then I take this thing that I'm proud of because I put all this energy into it and I put it on the table, and then this big, powerful adult just tears it apart. So now I've got negative associations with the homework itself, math topic, the process of doing homework, the process of trying to fulfill an expectation that a big, powerful adult has set upon me. Right? That's the dynamic that's going on here, is that I am procrastinating. I am pushing away that thing that I am expected to do or I need to do or whatever, even the taxes. I have internal resistance to doing that thing because my subconscious or inner child is sitting there looking at all prior cases of this and basically said, those all sucked. And we got nothing good out of it. people will hear this theory and say, no, Kirby, like there was this time I practiced the instrument, or I did my taxes and I did the math and then I checked off the list. And it's like, especially with taxes, it's like, oh no, I felt amazing because it's like I got a return and it turned out positive and money came back to my account. And then I got the pleasurable feeling of checking off the list and saying, I'm done. Great. I'm glad that this happened for you. But it is a fundamental misunderstanding about the way the two minds work. That is the kind of thing that the conscious mind recognizes. I got money back for my return. Money doesn't exist in the subconscious mind other than some kind of free-form association of like, this thing can help me get that thing, right? These little shiny pebbles will help me get a chocolate chip cookie, right? It doesn't have the same kind of weight to bring the benefit of a conceptual reward. Money is a concept. Attention is a concept. Like checking things off is a concept, right? These are all things that live in the conceptual mind, which is the cognitive, rational, conscious mind. The subconscious mind is much more associated with or concerned with sensations, feelings, and experience. So this is one of the ways that you can hack it. This is one of the ways you can fight the procrastination, is you have to go in and meticulously dissect the emotional response that I have to the thing that I'm avoiding. Let's say it's doing taxes. It's like, I'm dragging my feet. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. Kirby says I should ask why. Okay, why do I not want to do it? And then the brain says, I don't know, I just don't. If you're in that place, try harder. Because there is always something inside there, always. And when we get to the point where I accept my response of like, I don't know, I just don't. What I'm saying there is that it's not worth it to me to go find out what the real answer is. I don't care enough about myself, my inner child, my well-being, or my future to care about such things. I just want an easy answer. And if we explore that, we can start seeing another aspect of this procrastination, and that is, I don't like things that don't give me an immediate benefit. I just want a quick, immediate fix of pleasure. Now we're getting somewhere. So we have a general aversion to the things we're procrastinating against because of all this prior negative experiences we have, plus the idea that like I have to burn a whole lot of energy in order to achieve this thing, and I don't think there's going to be a payload. So that's on one side. And on the other side, it's like, oh, if I put this piece of chocolate in my mouth, I get an immediate little shot of pleasure. I get an immediate dose of dopamine. Maybe it's serotonin, whatever. Happy chemicals. If I just grab the remote and I turn on this thing, it's like, oh, look, here's a show that I kind of enjoy watching. And if I just put on the show, I get to check out. Wait, how is that benefiting us? How is that improving our chances of survival? It's a known entity. That's how. It is a fixed environment. It is a known activity. And remember, the subconscious doesn't really care about concepts. And so what the subconscious is observing is I'm sitting my ass here on the couch and shoving salty, crispy potato chips in my face. It's like, that's what it's experiencing. And it's like, and we're moving our eyeballs at this screen where all this colorful stuff is happening. And it's like, woo, yay, stimulus. It's like, we're completely and totally safe here. Is this tracking? I hope so. Procrastination arises from an aversion to prior experiences that have something to do with that thing, and an addiction to short-term positive stimulus. Dopamine addiction, validation addiction, whatever. Pick your lot. And this is the dynamic that's going on. The real reason you procrastinate is because you're addicted to short-term pleasure and you have an aversion to past failures or over expenditures, which is kind of considered a failure by the element of the subconscious. So how do we get over this? How do I do anything? Right? I struggle to be motivated to do anything. I wake up in the morning and it's like I want to doom scroll on the phone. Quick, easy, safe, no challenges. No one's going to shame me, theoretically. Like in that moment, the subconscious believes no one's going to shame me. I'm going to doom scroll. I'm going to go make some pancakes. I'm going to eat some pancakes. I'm going to eat some more sugar. I'm going to eat some more sugar. Maybe I'll grab a bit of nicotine or other substance that gives me short-term pleasure. I'm going to call my friends. I'm going to kind of walk around aimlessly. I'm going to color in these books, whatever, right? I'm going to go try this new restaurant, and then I'm going to shoot pictures of my food, and I'm going to post them on social media, and right? And it basically becomes this whole other project that you're working on. You need to look at the emotional benefit of these other things. You go take pictures of your lunch. You go to try some new restaurant. And you take photos of it and you post on social media. Look at the emotional experience there. The emotional experience there is I do this thing and I get likes. Maybe I don't even get likes, but I do the thing, I post on social media, and then I can look at it and say, oh, I'm awesome. I did a cool thing. I get to feel good about myself right now. Whereas if you'd spent that same time doing taxes, you do not get the same emotional experience. Eating sugar, put the sugar in the mouth, all sorts of elements of the brain are just like, woo, woo, woo. They go off like a little carnival inside, and they're having a super happy day. Now compare that to doing my math homework. There's no comparison. That brain is going to compel you in every way it possibly can to stay away from the negative things and run towards the positive things. But the problem is it's so short-sighted. It's like we can't fight it with logic. We can't fight this with some kind of like ritualized change in perspective. We have to fight it by playing its game. And the way we play its game is we have to create positive associations, positive, joyful, pleasurable experiences with the thing that we have been averting, and we need to create negative experiences for the things that the addictions we have been grabbing in place of it. That's the ticket. Now, how do we get there? How do we do this crazy thing that you're telling me to do, Kirby? And it's like it takes focus and it takes a lot of intention, because we have to dissect all these emotional experiences that we're having. First, we have to dissect all these emotional experiences we're having and be like, oh, this is the pleasure I get from that thing. And this is the negative pleasure, anti-pleasure, discomfort that I'm getting from this other thing. We have to go inward and really look at myself as I go through these motions of procrastinating from this thing and towards another. And then once I can find some clarity on that and say, this is really pleasurable, this one's really pleasurable, and that one really sucks, then we have to say, okay, how can I create an environment, create a situation that is a lot like doing math homework? Maybe it's actually doing math homework, but in a smaller bit. Because if I sit down to do math homework and I know it's going to take 4 hours, boop, I lose. My subconscious says, F no, hijacks my system, and then suddenly I'm eating donuts someplace. So maybe I have to segment out this thing that I'm procrastinating against and say, I'm going to bite off a small nibble. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of it. Maybe I do 10 problems. Maybe I do 5 problems. Maybe I do a single problem. And after I do a single problem, I celebrate the hell out of that. Not in something conceptual, not in something abstract. It's not a gold star on the wall. It's not a check mark on my workbook. It's not any of those things. It's like I have to give my body, my nervous system, the senses that I have access to, I need to give those senses something that feels pleasurable. So the idea here is you might do the thing where you're just like, "Ooh, I really like chocolate." And you're like, "I'm going to do one problem and I get this tiny piece of chocolate. And now I've got a visceral, felt, pleasurable sensation that has entered into my body right after I accomplish that thing. Now I do another problem. I have another piece of chocolate. I have another problem. I have another piece of chocolate. I get to the end of the homework and maybe I take a big piece or a chocolate cake or I go for a run or whatever. I need to create positive associations with the idea of doing it, not just accomplishing it. If we create if we wire up the associations so that I only get a positive prize for the accomplishing of a thing, now I'm back in the kind of transactional deadlands of attachment wounds, which is like, I'm only cool as long as I'm performing. I only get a prize as long as I'm performing. I'm only going to get approval as long as I'm doing the thing that all these other people want me to do. No. I mean, if we need to go through that valley, use those crutches in order to make progress, then sure, do that. But I would recommend you try to go the harder route. And the harder route is you want to create positive sensations associated with the choosing to do it. See, it's not the finishing of the math problem. It's I'm choosing to begin the process that I have been procrastinating or aversion from for so long. We're trying to create positive lines of association, positive experiences that are associated with the choosing to do, the thing that we have been resistant from, which is beginning the process. We're trying to create a positive association with that. I hate doing math. I'm going to reward myself with chocolate at the very fact that I began the process, at the very fact that I overcame that resistance and I chose to start. That does neat things inside the brain, back here in the anterior cingulate cortex, which is possibly kind of the seat of discipline or the seat of regulation, possibly. But whatever it is, when we choose to do something hard, the anterior cingulate cortex thickens, it gets stronger, it gets more powerful, it gets more durable, it increases our capacity for stress and discomfort. Like, it helps us move forward in life when we choose to do the hard thing. But of course, all the resistance we have is at the beginning that I don't want to even begin the process of doing a hard thing. So that's where this technique becomes really interesting, is that I'm going to continually reward myself for the choosing to do a hard thing until the choosing isn't hard anymore. I'm going to do that until my kind of chronic resistance to this activity or thing gets less or goes away. But that's only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is that we have all these stimulants, all these addictions over here, all these things that are offering pick me, quick solution, quick pleasure, sugar, cocaine, heroin, Netflix, Tinder, hookups, calling friends, shopping on Amazon, buying a package, getting a package, cleaning housework. What? Yes, that happens for some people. Doing laundry. What? Yes, that happens for some people. Anything that is a numbing agent, anything that's offering a short-term aversion, distraction, or whatever from that thing that we've been procrastinating against. So if we allow those to maintain the same kind of grip that they have over our nervous system, our brain, and our behaviors, we're going to have a harder fight. So we have to create an environment where we're attaching more and more positive associations to that thing that we've been resisting, and we're attaching more and more negative associations to the things that are pulling us away, the addictions, the distractions, the numbing agents. Okay, that can be hard because someone can be like, oh, well, I'm already struggling with a sugar addiction and now you're telling me I need to create more negativity with it? Like, how much more can I create? I hear you. I hear you. This is the kind of situation where we need stronger tools. And one of the stronger tools is that we need to hack our environment. If our brain is struggling to make decisions in line with our value system, sometimes we need to modify the environment to support us on that journey. And so what this looks like going through the entire house, finding everything that's sweet, sugary, whatever, and then putting it in the dumpster and taking it far, far away so that there's simply nothing there. And you'll come out wanting a sugary, sweet, gooey snack. And you're just like, I don't even have sugar to make cookies. Like, I got nothing. That's a way of giving your future self a benefit. That's a way of telling future self, hey, I care about you and I know you're going to have a moment of weakness. And in that moment, I've got you because I've come here and I've actually taken away all your temptations. And if it's doom scrolling, easy, remove the app, uninstall. If that idea is threatening or uncomfortable, that's a deeper job. And that might actually be very indicative of this problem that we're facing. Is that like, I've got this thing that I'm procrastinating all the time. How can I stop procrastinating? But yet I've got this thing that's a well-established, scientifically proven, psychologically hacked application to pull my attention away and encourage me to procrastinate and avoid things. And I won't uninstall the app. So then you got to ask yourself, what is your goal here? What are you really trying to accomplish? You just want the procrastination to go away without actually sacrificing anything. If you're in that camp, let's talk. Because that's a nasty camp to be in. That is a camp that leads to all sorts of pain and misery in your future. Because I used to live in that camp every day, all the time. I had a whole host of distractions and numbing agents that I would use daily for many hours every day under the kind of the justification that's like, oh, this is just a hobby. But man, if you threaten to take that hobby away, I was a dysregulated mess. I couldn't keep myself afloat. My brain was spinning nonstop. That's because that thing that I was doing was not a hobby. That was a numbing agent. That was a drug. It was a drug that was being used and consumed by my brain to keep me distracted. So for some of these things, the distraction agents, we can create negativity associated with them. But remember, it has to be experiential negativity. It's not the idea that like sugar's bad and it's going to make me fat or give me diabetes or something. Those are all conceptual. We need experiential. We need the kind of situation where you reach for the sugar container to pour it in your tea, and then you pour it in and you drink the tea, and the tea tastes like horrible because it's not actually sugar, or I put vinegar in it or something. And it's like, now I have a felt, visceral experience that my subconscious will see that and be like, well, damn. Like, we went for that yummy, tasty, sugary treat thing that's in that little box right there, or in that, bowl of spoon, whatever. We just went for that thing and we did the thing we've always done. And this time it was terrible. Yuck. Gross. It's going to take me hours to get that taste out of my mouth. That's exactly what we want. We want to create situations where the thing that has been distracting us and pulling us away for so long, we have such a yucky, disgusting experience with it that next time we're just like, maybe I'm not going to reach for that little bowl of sugar because, who knows what's going to be in it. You can supercharge this. Like, if you want a trick on how to supercharge this, you get an accountability partner. You get someone that knows your goals, knows your boundaries, understands what you're doing, and they're able to come in and basically sabotage the things that you use as numbing agents. They're able to put the vinegar in the sugar bowl. They're able to take your beer bottles and pop them open and just make sure they're flat and nastiness. Pour some Coca-Cola in there at the same time. So they grab the beer bottle and they're just like, oh, this is terrible. That's what we got to do. And if we can't do that, if we can't create visceral negative reactions towards our numbing agents, then what we need to do is we need to abstain from them. We need to evict them from our lives. We need to surgically remove them. And this is the kind of sacrifice you need to make to train your brain to move back towards the normal median. Because speaking as someone that lost years of my life to this dynamic over procrastination and over addiction, what happens is we get so good at aversion and procrastinating and denying and postponing that it becomes the norm. It's like completely automatic. It's like other people get good at football, I get good at postponement. And that becomes so completely automatic, and then our brain keeps reaching for the next drug, the next numbing agent, the next whatever. And it creates this dopamine addiction and this like feedback loop that seems like it's impossible to overcome. It feels completely overwhelming to face this thing. And if you're in that camp, this is not just as simple as I want to procrastinate less. This is an incident where you need to recognize that like I am an addict and I am addicted to these things that are unhelpful. And in my addiction towards those things, they're destroying these other aspects of my life. And I kid you not, I didn't think I was going to talk about this today. I kid you not, that was a turning point for me. That was a moment that shit got real. And I was able to muster up enough focus, discipline, intention, whatever, to look at myself as like I have been behaving like an addict for years, decades maybe. And that addiction cost me so many relationships that I care about. It cost me job opportunities. It cost me money. It cost me performance. It cost me in so many ways. And while I was in the addiction, it was just like, life sucks. This is unfortunate. I'm the victim. Why can't I have the kind of life I want? And then when someone would come along and be like, hey, do this thing, I'm like, maybe tomorrow, maybe later. No. You have to look at this with cold, hard eyes that looks at the reality of the situation and said, procrastination is an addiction. And I have to treat it as such. And just like Gabor says, don't look at the addict, don't look at the substance, don't look at the addiction, look at the pain. Look at the things that you were averting, avoiding, keeping distant. What is the pain that drives you to this place where you would rather just binge out on chocolate and Netflix all night than do something that's actually going to help your future life get better? There's a lot going on here. We have to reprogram the subconscious. We have to change lines of association between pleasure and discomfort on both sides. We have to renew our relationship with self. We have to begin practicing something that I call self-love. A lot of people use that term, but for me, it's every day and every way I choose you instead of them. I choose to nurture this body, this mind, this to the totality of this existence to make sure that tomorrow can be better than today. And that's what it takes. If you're someone that's had chronic procrastination in your life and you see this video or any number of other ones and you're just looking for a quick fix, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. Procrastination is a well-developed response to prior stress. And because it worked, your brain will keep doing it. Because it has provided safety, survival, and aversion of discomfort, the brain will double down and it will say, let's keep doing this more, which is probably why you're in a state where you say, I've got chronic procrastination, because that's where I was. So cut out the negative things. Go back and start before that woman coughed. So cut out the things that are distractions, create positive associations with the things we've been averting to, develop a better relationship with self, figure out what the emotional sensations actually are and why one feels good and the other feels bad, and then go to town, go to work. This is a long process, and it's hardest at the very beginning, but I promise you every step gets easier. The first step is always the most difficult, but every step after that gets easier and easier and easier, and pretty soon you're running. And pretty soon you'll look back at this and you'll just be like, wow, I remember the days, the decades that I used to procrastinate every single day. I remember the decades that I used to spend addicted to video games or sugar or shopping or dating or whatever. But now my life is different and I can still do those things. I don't have to abstain from them because I have completely reshaped my relationship to them. And it's like, I can play a video game every once in a while. I can do online shopping every once in a while. I can engage with sugar every once in a while, but it doesn't have control over me. And those great big projects, but those day-to-day things that I really need to get done, sometimes I got a little bit of resistance, sometimes a lot. But I recognize it now as simply resistance and an aversion to discomfort. It's an aversion to something that, like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know if I'm going to win. I don't know if it's going to pay off. And I have a fear of that. And I see that. I see the aversion. I see the fear. And I say, okay, you can sit here for a minute. I'm going to sit here and honor this. They're like, yeah, it is uncomfortable. It is unknown. It might suck. But I'm going to do this anyway. And I charge forward. And when the stronger the resistance, the more I'll celebrate every step. The more resistance I have, the more I will celebrate the hell out of that first step. Be like, I have walked towards this thing that it used to take me 4 or 5 months to start the process of doing my taxes. And now it's like, no, I can do this on month 1 or 2. And it's like, look at that. And I celebrate a little bit on the first step, or I celebrate a lot. And then when I reach the end point, it's just like, I got to go have my favorite food and a dessert. And as I'm eating this delicious food or eating the ice cream or whatever, I'm like, this is happening because I took that risk and I pushed past that resistance and I started something that looked hard. That's why I'm here enjoying this right now. That's why I have this yummy sugar in my mouth. And in doing so, I've reshaped my relationship to all those things. Resistance is lower. Procrastination is no longer a defining trait of my personality. And the people that I've worked with one-on-one and guided them through this process, they would report the same thing. And you can too. I hope that's been beneficial. There's been a lot. We covered a lot there. I hope you have a very clear idea of why procrastination happens and what the driving forces are and what we can do about it. I believe in you. If you have any problems with this, send me a message. I'm just one DM away, or email or WhatsApp or whatever. And I'd love to hear from you. And we can chat about topics you might want to hear about in the future. I wish you the best. Peace.